She's Katy Montgomery. He's Justin Joseph. These best friends are serving subpoenas to bad advice weekly with Wrong Way Forward. The advice column reboot you never knew you needed. Sparks fly. And so does the hilarity. Now, here's Katy and Justin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of Wrong Way Forward. I'm Justin Joseph here along with Katy Montgomery. We've covered a lot of territory in our first 4 episodes.
That's correct. And today I think we're going to deep dive into a kind of intense topic and something that can be kind of gnarly. And that is kind of relationship deal breakers.
100%. You know, I think this is an episode that no matter where you are in the spectrum of life, you've been in a relationship forever, you are still looking for one.
Right.
This is an episode that will touch and a lot of people relate to.
Exactly. And so, of course, I'm going to start with, this is going to be an official piece of advice. This is coming from the New York Times. So I'm going to put on my readers to make this to read this. But this is part of Social Cues. It is a kind of weekly part of the New York Times that gives kind of advice. So someone writes in and says, I recently started dating a man who is funny and bright. His lifestyle preferences are aligned with mine. We both like splitting our time among New York City, the country, and the beach. That combo is hard to find these days. The problem, on our third date, he showed up wearing tight white jeans and cologne with gel in his hair. I appreciate that this may be his vibe, but it's not for me. It was also different from his low-key style on our first 2 dates. I managed to make it through the happy hour, but I've been sensitive to scent for as long as I can remember. Should I bring up this sensitivity with him or chalk it up to preference that another woman may like?
Okay, so we're going to get to the advice, but let's stop right there and break this down.
Yes.
How old, and this viewer does not give us her age, how old do we think this woman is?
I'm thinking this has to be somebody probably in your 30s at this point.
I'm thinking older as well because she's had enough time to know what she wants.
Correct.
But also she's very specific about what she wants, which I think is sort of that cuts both ways.
And she's specific about knowing what gives her the ick.
Which I think if anyone has that gift, it's you.
Correct. The ick is real, and it's very hard to get past.
The ick is real. Okay, that's the name of this episode going forward. The ick is real.
The ick is real.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's dive into. So she wrote in, and let's see what the advice column is.
And so the advice says, I'm confused. Even if you sort out the cologne, and I believe you have the right to tell this man you're sensitive to fragrance and to ask him to come unscented in future meetings, that still leaves the white jeans and hair gel. My impression from your letter is that all 3 are non-starters for you. And as much as we might like to, we don't have the right to micromanage the aesthetic choices of others. Now, you don't mention your age or relationship experience, so I'm going to tread gently here. Your dating criteria seem a bit shallow to me. Being able to afford an apartment in the city, a country house, and beach vacations is not a lifestyle preference. It is a socioeconomic condition. And wealth and appearances make poor foundations for good relationships in my experience.
So shockingly, I think we're going to disagree on this because I really think this advice, I think you're going to agree that she can take those things out and she can have objections to them. I think you reach a certain point where your objection criteria has to soften. Your thoughts?
I mean, I do. I mean, I agree with that, but I do think that there's also something to be said that if you have a certain aesthetic, and I think attraction is very important. And I think if hair gel and tight white jeans and heavy cologne triggers and signifies something to you that's affiliated with something that gives you the ick or that you associate with a lot of negatives, it's very hard to get past that.
Okay, that's fine. I think what's interesting is you and I discussed this when we were prepping the episode, and I think what I found interesting is something that I had not thought about, is I think when you start dating, you're willing to take on some of the it.
Correct.
And as you get older, then perhaps you're less willing to do that. Do you agree with that?
Agreed. And I think if you are 50 years old and you have particular connotations, whether or not they are fair, accurate, that are associated with a man in tight white jeans, gel, and heavy cologne, it's very hard if that's been ingrained in you for 50 plus years to let those go overnight.
Okay, but I mean, I agree. Tight white jeans plus hair gel plus cologne
is a lot. Heavy.
It's a lot. But would you take a man in tight white jeans without the cologne, without the hair gel?
So,
or one of the three?
I mean, fantastic question. And I'm terrified that the listeners are going to think that I'm a very superficial and shallow person, but I'm going to tell a story. So I dated a guy. We had a great time. I ended up going back to my ex-boyfriend, and we continued kind of a long-term relationship. But then we connected after that said boyfriend and I broke up. And I invited him to a fundraising event, and I said, it's suit and tie. Now, he says to me, I have a 3-piece suit. And I immediately got very anxious. I'm like, he's going to wear a vest. Who wears a vest? And then I start to realize, and then he says, it has a matching pocket watch.
Okay, and if I can just stop you right here, it's so interesting to me that he felt like he needed to run his outfit by you. He already knew that you had a height.
I don't think so. I think he was very proud of his zoot suit. It was 3 pieces. It was brown pinstripe, and it had a pocket watch. And
that's gross.
Correct.
But anyone who knows you for 5 minutes, whether they're going to be dating you or your best friend, knows quickly that your standards are here and they need to run by things by you. Agree or disagree?
No, I disagree. And here's the thing. If you take that assumption and you play that out, he clearly didn't care enough, because if he thought I would care, he still wore a 3-piece zoot suit with a pocket watch.
Did you tell him not to wear that?
No, because I was at a stage in my dating life where I'm like, don't be a bitch, be generous, don't make assumptions. It's not about what people wear. But the entire...
Did you make a mistake in not telling him? Should you have told the truth?
I think at that stage, no. But I think the entire time it made me cringe. And the other day, my brother mentioned, oh, remember when that guy wore a pocket watch? And again, I'm very close to my siblings. So again, here I am. I'm 51. I'm an independent woman, but I still literally want to crawl under the table, because I know, and again, I want to be bigger than that. I want to be a kind, generous person.
But you're not. I mean, those things are important to you. And when you say bigger than that, that's who you are.
Well, I mean, I aspire to not care about that kind of stuff.
When have you ever not cared about that?
But I didn't tell him to.
Do you remember when you and I when we were in college and we go to dinner with your parents, and you would give me a lessons manner on how to eat and how to.
And you thanked me for that later. You said it was one of the most instructive times in your life.
It was an experience and a value I will take with me forever.
Yes,
but it's at the time of focus.
But on this advice, I don't agree with the advice. I've tried that. I've tried to go beyond it. But if you've got the ick and you're finding certain things unattractive, and you have heavy connotations with things that make you cringe, it's uncomfortable being your real self around someone when you're constantly just evaluating what someone's doing. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you do have aesthetic, preferences. And why are we punishing people for aesthetic preferences?
I don't think we are. I think what we're punishing is there are 2 things I find objectionable about your take on this advice.
Yes.
The first is that you set not only him up for failure, you set yourself up for failure, because you didn't just be honest and say you won't wear a pocket, and you should have told him not to wear a pocket.
I think I said, why would you want to wear a pocket?
You see, that should have been taken on. Absolutely not. You will not wear an effing pocket watch at dinner with my family.
It wasn't dinner with the family. It was a fundraiser.
But it's gross. I agree with you. High ick factor. We could figure everything else. The pocket watch is nasty.
Yes.
But you set yourself up for failure. Set him up for failure by not telling the truth. Agree or disagree?
I think that that's easier said than done when you were connecting with someone, and it's still kind of new. I mean, I would like to ask you. I mean, we're talking about relationship deal breakers, and what is fair and what is considered too superficial.
Well, I think that's all fair. I mean, I can think about someone who I thought was the love of my life, and so much that I would fly to his city probably 5 times and beg him to be my partner, and every time he's like, "Stop coming here! It's not going to happen."
See, I mean, that to me, that's a non-starter, because he didn't want to start it with you.
Well, we did. We started it, and then he ended it, and then I kept flying back and saying, "Are you sure?" And he kept saying, "Yeah, I'm sure."
But I think
on the it factor, there was so much about him that would not be who I would be with that person today. And one of them was he had a lot of flesh wounds.
Okay.
So
I just give me a second, because I just puked in my mouth. What do you mean? Like, he was just very casual about Putin?
You have to tell them just what that was. No one understood that word.
Everybody knows that poot is the very kind and appropriate way to not call it an F-A-R-T. I hate the word F-A-R-T.
I hate that word, and I hate the P word, the poo word. No, I mean,
anyway, could you just answer the question?
Yeah,
Did he poot a lot in front of you?
he had no problem doing it in front of me, and to me, that for me is high ick factor. It's worse than a stopwatch or a pocket watch.
A pocket watch. So if he was so handsome, great career, really interesting, family person, values matched up, but he just happened to be a frequent pooter.
A freaking pooter around me in my face. Yeah. So I think we're gonna head to break here. I think on the other side, let's talk about the fact that as you get older, does your ick factor decrease or does it increase because you're okay being alone? We'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay, makes sense.
You've been listening to Wrong Way Forward, where bad advice goes to die and then gets resurrected just so we can roast it again.
That's right, Katy. Nobody's off limits, not the gurus, not the influencers, and definitely not Oprah.
Sorry, Oprah.
If you're enjoying the chaos, hit like and subscribe and come back every Thursday for new episodes.
Have a new topic or some disastrously bad advice you want to dissect? Email wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Include your contact info.
Now back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin podcast.
And we're back. So, Justin, before we went to the break, you posed a question. So let's revisit that.
I do want to revisit this because I have a good girlfriend who is in the dating pool. I know you are as well. And I often wonder, when you're young, you kind of are more choosy because you're young and you get to be that way. I think in your 30s or 40s, you're less choosy because you're at that age where you need to have children and you maybe are a little bit more open. But do you agree that as you get older in your 40s, 50s, where you're really okay being alone, that you really do have a higher ick factor? Like, there's a lot that someone could do that you're like, that's not for me. I'd rather be alone.
I mean, I think it's more nuanced than that, right? Yeah. I think an ick factor is an ick factor, and you can't control that, right?
Do you think an ick factor at 20 is the same as an ick factor at 50?
I mean, I think it evolves over time, right? And your exposure and being able to possibly, I think some of those ick factors are based on kind of superficial norms that might have been disproven over time.
And for you specifically, you have the same ick factors when you were 25 as you do.
That's not fair because I haven't cataloged all my ick factors, but I would say.
Are you sure you haven't? Because I feel like you have.
Appreciate that, but I'm a very busy person, Justin.
But I feel like that's the same for all women. I think people know what they.
No, ick factors are different. Ick you can't anticipate. Now I can tell you, on a man, for me, tight white jeans, hair gel, and cologne has been consistent since I was probably, let's say, real interest in boys, like age 12, and I'm almost 52.
And none of the boys did it. I mean, I agree, tie white jeans, although, yes, tie white jeans and cologne. I guess, as I say now, I'm going to date tie white jeans. Josh wears cologne occasionally.
The problem with cologne, it's heavy cologne.
Yeah. But what was the third item?
Hair gel.
Hair gel. Have you never dated someone with hair gel?
I mean, I'm sure I have, but I was just, I was raised down south. Boys were washing go. They didn't use hair dryers. They don't use gel. Like if you said, "What's mousse?" they'd be like, "I don't know. Do you eat it for dessert?" Like I'm just not used to that. Though to just kind of tell another story, I used to be in a wine club, and this wine club started, kind of late 20s, early 30s. And at the very first meeting of the wine club, everyone was single. Mm-hmm. It's probably very telling. I'm the only person who's still single, this many years later. But we played kind of a parlor game, and they said, you have 20 points. And you have to allocate 20 points for your future partner among 4 categories. And it was looks, kindness, intelligence, and humor.
Okay.
And as you could imagine, the men were high on looks. The women were high on kind of intelligence and humor. And kindness kind of fell to the wayside.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And
not surprising, but
interesting. And at that point in my age, I was like, look, if you're highly intelligent, there's a high likelihood you're probably smart. And if you're smart, you probably get the kindness because if you do X, you're probably going to piss someone off until you're clever enough. Not the case. So I do think this is nuanced. I mean, I'm like, if you get a heavy ick and it's an ick to where you think that you can't be yourself and you can't treat that person with love and kindness and respect, I think you kind of call it off. If you feel like you're always cringing around them, you're always having to compensate for them, you're always having to kind of explain why they're doing something because you find it uncomfortable or you don't like it, I think it's not good enough. But I do think if you can get past the ick, and I think the question really comes to the crux of this is, can she get over the ick?
And let me ask you this: can you coach through the ick?
I think that
you did not do with Stopwatch Man or Pocket Watch Man. You didn't take the opportunity to say, "Don't wear a vest, please. It icks me out." You you were the queen of this. I love you, but do not bring a pocket watch to the party. Burn your vests. And I forget what the third thing.
it was a suit.
I don't think that's like stripes.
I mean, it's kind of like the suit that you would think a little bit of vomit in my life.
Yes, but I feel
a
like
little bit of, like, remember that song?
I feel like if you liked him, you'd call it a seersucker.
It was not a seersucker.
Stripes.
I could spot a seersucker about 2 miles away, and I literally would run towards a seersucker. I would run towards a seersucker.
You didn't like it was a suit. If you liked it, it would have been a seersucker.
Oh my God, if it was a seersucker, I'd be like,
but that's my
I'd be like my ring size is.
Kid, would you agree with me on this point? You have always had high standards. That is not something to apologize for. It's something to acknowledge. And
And I'm going to be honest. I think probably the wrong way forward is, and I think probably some listeners are going to be like, high standards are not white jeans, hair gel, and,
Some
zoot
love bar.
suits. High standards are, you want someone of integrity. You want someone who's committed to family. You want someone who's honest. You want someone, who is, hardworking. And those are things that I want, but I also want to be highly attractive. And I don't want to cringe if one of my brother refers to something from a boyfriend years ago and I immediately like changing the subject so fast because I start to get embarrassed.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting because, men have it much easier than women in the dating world.
Well, I mean, and I just don't want us to forget, Justin, that if anybody poots in front of you, it's completely over.
And that is a deal breaker. You should be out the door. And yes, I don't care if you're a zoot suit or not, and whatever, a seersucker or not. Yes.
There we go.
All right, we're coming to the time of the show. We're going to look at our viewer emails from our last
Yes.
segment. Why don't you take us in and tell us what we've got and what we talked about last segment?
So last time we talked about our, beloved Oprah, well, your beloved Oprah.
Oprah, right?
And, and Oprah gave advice at a Stanford commencement speech that said, your emotion should be your GPS. You should always follow what your emotions. And I think, for me, it was more of like, look, when emotions are taking over, you're losing kind of the logic, you're losing kind of the real facts and the data, and you can kind of tell yourself stories that can send you away. And so we did hear from some readers, and I'm sure, Justin, I'm seeing you smirking over there.
One of the readers actually starts by complimenting me and then does a quick turn and backhands me and also. So you'll like this one.
Yeah, please share.
I don't obviously share emails that are critical of me, but Katy, you tried to rewrite history saying you were always impressed by Oprah. Love that point. You do always do that. But Justin caught you red-handed. That factually incorrect button idea, genius. Please get it installed. So she thinks that you need one of those to buzz me out.
Correct. So let's see what I heard. So you were so right to call out Justin's story about lying at work. It's a perfect example of what you're talking about, letting emotional and personal desire take over. Do you think Justin's factually incorrect moments on the broadcast are just his emotional brain running wild? And how do you handle that?
Yeah.
I mean, they feel sorry for me, Justin.
Well, Clement, this is becoming a trend line because you push it all the time, and I'm factually incorrect. And actually, again, another one of my emails says, this is touching. I love how Justin shares heartfelt Oprah stories. True. Framed autographs, sneaking out of the prosecutor's office just to see her. And Katy's big contribution is telling us he reads teleprompters when he's nervous. Girl, he's living his best Oprah life moment. And you're trying to narrate like a jealous stage manager, calling me factually correct.
Did your husband send that?
No, it doesn't say correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I've got one more to share. It seems like Justin relies on his gut feeling a lot, even though you provided clear evidence that it's a flawed approach. How do you maintain a productive co-hosting relationship when your podcast partner dismisses your logical professional advice?
Well, I disagree with that.
I need to address this reader. It's very difficult. It's very hard, and I'm working on it.
Well, let me also say I do actually think you have. That's what I think you bring to the podcast. I think you are this as out of the many episodes we've done, this one, I think you were mostly right on. Like I give you a 70-30 right on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so usually we say we're going to disagree on this. I did not agree on how you took on Oprah, but I did not disagree with how you took on her advice.
Well, if Oprah ever calls, I'll let you sit next to her.
Here's my final one. Let's be real. Justin shows up with quotes, data, and a killer Oprah backstory. Katy shows up with "you look old in a suit" and some elephant fan fiction. Sorry, but this isn't National Geographic. It's a podcast. Give me Justin's check your logic over your trust your emotional elephant any day of the week. That person had it for you.
I mean, they clearly hate my guts, but I think it's so irrational that I really don't care.
All right. Well, when we come back, in segment 3, we always do our "Let's Talk About This."
Yes.
You want to give a preview of what we're talking about this week?
So let's talk about this is going to be kind of a topic. Again, Justin and I try not to talk about this ahead of time. But my guess is we're not going to agree. We're going to talk about Nepo Babies.
Yeah.
So we'll be back in just a second.
Be right back.
Thanks for streaming Wrong Way Forward, the weekly reminder that advice is usually free for a reason. We call out bad advice wherever it hides: boardrooms, break rooms, and even book clubs.
Enjoying this dumpster fire? Like, subscribe, and check back every Thursday for new episodes. Want us to roast your favorite piece of nonsense? Email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to include your contact info. We're not psychic, just judgmental. And now, back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin podcast.
All right, so welcome back to segment 3, where we talk about, can we talk about it? This is a segment that, for whatever reason, it could be a hot topic. It could be something that you saw or I saw that sparked something that makes you want to comment. This week, we're talking about Nepo Babies. It's been a topic that's been on a lot of people's minds for some time.
It has been. It has been. And I mean, my general kind of take on this is I think there's some really amazing Nepo Babies out there.
Name one.
Oh, I think Jamie Lee Curtis.
Uh.
Hands down, daughter of Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis. I love her in The Bear. I love her in Freaky Friday. I love her in the reboot. I love her in the movie that she won the Oscar for. I find her to be incredibly entertaining and a talent and really just a superstar.
I don't disagree with that. I think the bigger question is, did she get, even though she is talented, and there are a lot of Nepo Babies who are, there are plenty of talented people out there that didn't get the leg up that she did. And therefore, is that fair? I think that's what we're talking about.
But I think, again, neither one of us are parents. But, if I had a child and I would want them to have, really the drive and the motivation to kind of do what they needed to do. But if I had access to an internship, or if I could give my nieces or nephews, feedback on, I've worked at Georgetown, NCI, Johns Hopkins, if I could give them insight into kind of what they were looking for future applicants, I would share that. So I think that's a really hard line and a boundary that we can't kind of clearly draw. And I think if we're seeing people take these roles and really excel, it's not fair for them to be burdened by you're a Nepo baby.
Right. And this is out of your email when we talked about that we were going to do this. Someone said, Justin and Katy, I agree with your take on Nepo Babies, but Katy clearly is from an affluent upbringing. Isn't that the same thing? How do you feel about that?
Well, I can tell this person that I've had a job since I was.
But you had a leg up. I think that's her point, is that you came from an affluent family.
I would not say affluent. I would say highly educated that really promoted education.
Isn't that enough of a leg up?
Yeah, and I
say push you all. Sorry.
Yes, and I don't think that. I think that it would be very odd for a parent to not be actively engaged. And I think I read in a study that they said one of the greatest indicators of success is if your child goes to summer camp, like sleepaway summer camp. And it makes sense, right? You can afford sleepaway summer camp. You're of a certain socioeconomic status. With that comes education, money, opportunity. So, what do people expect people to do? Like step back and not give kind of those children opportunities? And to be completely honest, my preference would be a Nepo baby over like a Kardashian who made a sex tape and does cheap reality TV. If I had my choice.
I mean, I think the ultimate question is there talent there? Number one, but I think we can both agree that we were given sort of a leg up just because of the fact
100%.
We were made to go to college. That alone is a step up over a lot of the population. And so, and for a Nepo baby, there are some out there. And I watched Gilded Age, who has a Nepo baby, a very famous Oscar-winning actress. And I thought she was terrible in seasons 1 through. I mean, I'll just say her name. She's Meryl Streep's daughter, and I thought she was terrible in seasons 1 through 3. But by season 4, she had found herself. Is she Meryl Streep? No. Will she ever be Meryl Streep? No. But that bar is high. But there are plenty of Nepo babies that probably shouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that there's also Nepo babies that I don't want people to take away the fact that they are fantastic. And I look at like, I don't know if anyone here has been watching The Pit on HBO, but I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Bryan Cranston, who's a fantastic actor known for Breaking Bad, his daughter Taylor's on that role, on that series, and she's absolutely fantastic. And it made me a little sad when she became attached to her dad, because I knew people would say she only got it because of that. When in all reality, she had a different last name. And to be completely honest, I couldn't have picked her out as a lineup as her.
But her casting director, certainly.
I mean, maybe, who knows? But she's really fantastic in the role.
Well, I think that that's fine. So if you had to give a letter grade or a number grade in terms of your being okay with Nepo babies, you would say what?
I mean, I would say, you know, a scale of 1 to 10, you know, I would probably give it a 6 or a 7, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
And I would definitely be underneath that. I'd be more against it than and part of it's just because I'm someone who's worked hard as you have. And so I want to compete in a fair playing field. And it bothers me when someone gets something, an advantage that I can't have and I can't compete in. I could never have a
Yeah, but I mean, you were born in America as a white male. I mean, you already had advantage. So I think, and that's the thing that's a problem, is assigning someone and slapping on Nepo baby takes away all of the nuance and all of the other advantages that all other people have.
Doesn't also slapping on you were born a white male do the same thing?
I mean, yes, but those still in our society are considered advantages. That will take you off of first base and get you closer to home run.
I don't disagree at all. And you know, in the end, even if you're a Nepo baby and you're put on a good movie or whatever, you still have to prove. You still have to.
Correct. And let's be honest, if you fail as a Nepo baby, the fall is much more intense and much more trauma related, because when you fail, it is front cover, page 6, National Enquirer, People Magazine, Entertainment Tonight. So you don't fail quietly. You fail in the public eye.
It's a bigger fault. For
yes,
sure.
Correct.
And there's some big examples of Nepo babies that have had, you know, twice the spotlight because of them. And I'm trying to think of anything that comes to mind right now, but there have been some classic examples of Nepo babies. The woman who got her kids into college, Lori.
Well, she cheated.
She cheated, but her children were at that point successful on their own because of her name, right? I think they had fashion lines or whatever they have. But when she failed, or when they all failed, there was big falls.
And now anybody Googles those kids, they're going to know that they were part of a cheating college scandal.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's an interesting conversation. It's interesting that it's been on everybody's mind so much. Like, people have strong opinions on this.
Right.
You know, whatever side you come down on.
And I think it comes back to, what is this podcast about? And is the wrong way forward? Mm-hmm. What is the right way forward if you have a child? And let's narrow this down to Hollywood. You're from Hollywood. You have a child who's incredibly interested in Hollywood. What do you do?
Yeah, and this brings back to a story. I was young. My brother's a very, very smart person. He's in medicine. For those of you who don't know, that's you have to have a certain IQ to get into that program. You have to test it.
Genius.
And so, yes. And so when I was young in second grade, my brother immediately tested into gifted and talented. And my mother was literally dragging me by the shirt up to the principal's office
to get tested.
Once a year, say, test Justin. And they were like,
you didn't make it?
They're like, he's not gifted and talented. Stop bringing him there.
I was talented and gifted.
But the point is like she was trying to give me a leg up that I didn't deserve and I didn't get.
And you probably felt like not amazing because
it's traumatizing. Telling a story, 51 years later, I could really remember, they're like, in the back room, they're like, I heard him, he's not talented. So, and yes, no, I was not. So anyway.
But when we talk about kind of wrong way forward, right? Let's try to flip it before we kind of sign off today. What is the right way forward for Nepo babies?
Or for a parent who was trying to get their children attention.
Yes, I love that. And any parent will. It would be odd if you weren't.
Yeah, and you want that kind of parent, right? I love that my mother was in my corner. Mm-hmm. And I, if I had children, and I'm sure if you did too, we would be doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So the right way forward is to push and push and push to get your children the advantage they deserve. I think maybe the wrong way forward is when you try and take advantage of your name or your position to get that done.
And I think probably the wrong way forward is having your children thinking they're entitled to it, but maybe opening a door, but really sending home the message that hard work, education, perseverance, and really honing one's craft is what's going to be kind of in the long run success.
100%. So our next episode, we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics, pet peeves.
Pet peeves.
If you have some ideas, please email us.
Yes, it's at the Wrong Way Forward podcast at gmail.com. And again, we'd like to remind everyone, we really appreciate all our listeners. Please follow us on our social media accounts. We'll share those at the end of this episode. But also, if you enjoy our podcast, make sure to follow us, and you can always leave a great review. Thanks so much. We enjoyed chatting with y'all today.
We'll see you next week.
All right, that's a wrap on this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Remember, the only thing worse than taking bad advice is giving it.
If you've liked what you've heard, like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you stream podcasts. And if you've got a topic or need some advice we'll probably regret giving, email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward.